Hey guys, Thomas Jr. here, aka Mustache Tom, here to count down the 15 worst movies of 2015. Now, just like my 2015 best list, there are probably going to be movies on here that made other people's lists that just didn't quite make mine. Most likely because I didn't watch it, like Mordecai or 50 Shades of Grey. Those probably would have made my list, as they seem to be very hated movies overall, but I just didn't see those movies, luckily. So, I'm not about to put movies I haven't seen on my list, therefore, they will not be included. So, the way I decided to count down my 15 worst movies of 2015 are looking at movies that the stories were very uninteresting, boring, frustrating, or a combination of the both. Movies that just dragged and, other things of that nature. So, without further ado, here are the top 15 worst movies of 2015, in my opinion. Number 15. Starting off at number 15, The Man from Uncle. Now, I can understand why some people enjoyed this movie, but it just didn't quite land for me, as I felt the connection between the characters just weren't that interesting and the performances were a bit weak. Now, there was one funny aspect to this movie, or one funny scene, where the two of them are arguing with each other in this other room, and there's this guy in this chair, and he's like being tortured or something, and they're arguing, he's burning up or something. It was pretty funny, but it was the only scene that kind of stuck with me. And the ending was a bit interesting how they shot it, but I just didn't feel fully invested in the movie, as I felt, again, the chemistry was just not quite there, and that's about it. So, it did land in my number 15, as I felt it was just a bit disappointing. Number 14. Number 14, Point Break. Now, when I first saw this movie, I didn't know this was a reboot, so I went in completely blind, and I still didn't like the movie, as I felt the characters just weren't that very interesting, and the story just started falling apart, especially toward the middle, where it completely turns into a separate movie focusing on sports rather than being a crime movie. And at the end of the movie, it says, hey, we were supposed to be a crime movie, remember? Let's throw that back in there. And it doesn't make any sense, as there's all these shooting things that are happening, and it doesn't make any sense. And we're following these characters that were sort of hanging out and doing all this other stuff, but it doesn't connect to the crime whatsoever, because we didn't see that in the middle. We just saw them hanging out. I don't know. It's a complete mess, and it felt unnecessary, which is why I ended up on my 14 spot. Number 13. At number 13, The Boy. Not to be confused with 2016's The Boy. Nice naming there, by the way. Now, you're probably going to notice that my top 15 has a lot of horror movies on it, as I felt this genre has suffered the most in 2015, followed very closely by comedies. So, we have The Boy, and the pacing of this movie is so slow, and I don't have a problem with slow pacing as long as I can be invested in the characters, and the characters are completely lackluster, unfortunately, here. So that was a big issue for me. And the other big issue for me was its sense of escalation, as the middle and slightly close to the beginning felt completely switched. It should have been in the middle the killing, and in the beginning almost killing, but for some reason they did a killing first and then an almost killing in the middle, which doesn't make any sense. Now, we'll say that the ending was kind of cool-ish, but as I said, it didn't have any weight to it. Like, he does the burning, as you can see in the picture, but when we get there, it just doesn't feel like it was earned or anything. So, this movie ended up in my number 13 still. Number 12. Coming in at number 12, Transporter Refueled. No Jason Statham. Story is completely kind of confusing. I barely remember this movie, to be kind of honest. It's just not very memorable. The action just didn't quite land anywhere. Uh, the car stuff wasn't all that interesting, if I can even remember that, but it just doesn't click. The whole thing with the father feels very overdone, and it just doesn't quite land anywhere. So it's a completely unnecessary attempt at a reboot of a movie series or franchise that just it was okay in the first place. I think even if they got Jason Statham to do this movie, I don't think that would have completely necessarily saved this movie from anything. As I said, it's still all over the place, kind of confusing, just not very rememberable. So, and all that, and it got my number 12 spot. Number 11. At number 11, Hitman Agent 47. Another terrible video game movie. Excellent. That's all we needed. Another terrible video game movie. Look, we don't need another one of these. As I feel like this movie is trying to say, we're gonna make another one. Please don't. As I felt this movie was too focused on another character that just wasn't really well handled at all. I mean, it could have worked. I mean, the female character could have been interesting, engaging, strong. But no, she's generic, bland, and just not very interesting to follow. And Hitman himself isn't very all that interesting, and the action just doesn't do anything for me here, as I feel it's completely lacklustered. It's a shame. I feel like, where is my Silent Hill again? That's what I'm asking. Where's Silent Hill again? The good movie. The one fine video game movie. It's fine. Where's that again? Can we get good video game movies instead of this again? Please? It's a shame that this had to end up in my spot of number 11. It's a shame. Number 10. Coming in at number 10, Fantastic Four. What a terrible superhero movie. Oh no, it's just like Spider-Man 3. Oh no, it's just like Catwoman. Wait, was it Catwoman? I don't know. But I think it was Catwoman. I don't know. It's hard to remember these bad superhero movies. It's easily forgettable. Fantastic Four, the reboot, joins that list. And it's unfortunate because it could have worked, as I felt the two most important things were completely left out of this movie: a sense of teamwork and Doctor Doom being a badass antagonist. Both of those things just didn't work in this movie, as they pushed Doctor Doom to the side, and the only cool scene in this entire movie is his escape. And then the end of the movie makes no sense because these four never do any team stuff until the end. So it's like, the logic is they magically just got good at the end without any sense of teamwork. At least in the original movie, they were sort of working together-ish. I mean, the first movie's okay. I wouldn't call it a good superhero movie. I would say okay, but this is way worse. And yeah, I do think that there are quite a few movies worse than this. So it ended up on my number 10 spot. Number 9. Coming in at number 9, another horror movie. Oh, Insidious Chapter 3, or Insidious Cash Grab as I like to call it. Trying to pull off this whole, oh, the sequel never happened, or trying to fit it with the sequel, but it didn't work whatsoever. The scares weren't scary, the characters just weren't that interesting. There are a few good, more comical bits here and there, and I don't even know if they were intentional or not, but it ended up making me laugh more than anything else, I think. But I can't help it when I see so much cliche. I mean, I think they were trying to be original by making the main character have an injury, but I think that's been done before, and I think it's been done better. So this movie's just, it is a cash grab, and it's not a very good cash grab at that. So it ended up at my number 9 spot. So don't make Insidious Chapter 4. Please don't. This movie doesn't make much sense as it is, and it doesn't help the sequel or even the first movie that people might have found okay. But this just doesn't fly for me. Number 8. At number 8, oh look, another reboot, and oh look, another horror movie, Poltergeist. Now, I really enjoyed the first Poltergeist, and I really got a kick out of it. And seeing it now, I will admit that I do find it a bit more comical than scary, and it's just it's a little bit laughable as it doesn't quite hold up as well as it should. But I still really like following this family and seeing them get out of the situation still. But this new Poltergeist just didn't work as well, as I felt the bond between the family just wasn't as strong. I mean, there is a slight connection between the brother and the sister at the end of the movie, and I felt that that was the only good thing about this movie, is that moment where that thing happened between the brother and the sister. But as I said, it could have been done better, and the effects could have been better, and the scares could have been more effective, but none of that happened, which is why I ended up on my number 8 spot. Number 7. Number 7. Pixels. Come on. We already have enough bad video game movies. We didn't need something that's not related to a video game being bad involving video game characters. We didn't need something that got confusing and convoluted and just wasn't interesting. The characters weren't interesting. Graphically, the pixelation was the only good thing worth seeing, but that's about it. All the performances are just not there, not interesting. This is another thing where, yeah, Adam Sandler's trying to do a thing, and it feels like he was more roped into this one. And to give the guy some credit, I find Hotel Transylvania 2 fine. I think that movie's fine. But here, it just doesn't feel right at all, as the characters aren't interesting, the story's just all over the place, and all the cracks and holes and confusion that this movie brings, it's just it's more of a stress movie more than anything else. This is why it got my number 7 spot. Number 6. Number 6. I'm pretty sure when I went to see this movie, I was thinking I didn't want to see like a something that's this close to pretty much being a porno. I mean, that's what this movie felt like it was trying to be. And it's supposed to be a horror movie, and it just doesn't work. I mean, the performances are just completely overdone. And I think they're trying to make a secret comedy, but even that didn't even work. The only time I ended up even remotely smirking or laughing was I think it was the last line of the movie. That was about it. Everything else in this movie was just completely nonsensical. The story just not very engaging. The characters just so boring. This movie is just not good, and it, like I said, it feels like they're trying to make more of an erotic movie. And whatever, I don't care. But if they were trying to do that, they should have just said, "Hey, we're trying to make an erotic movie." Fine, go make your erotic movie, but do me a favor and don't call it a horror movie. Please stop doing that. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Which is why I ended up in my number 6 spot. Number 5. Number 5. Pan. What what was this movie? Pan? Peter Pan? A character that I feel like doesn't even show up in this movie, Pan? No. Just no. There's like one overacted line that I'm sure everyone's seen. And I was like, oh, this could be interesting. It has that guy, Hugh Jackman. He could do good, right? I think. No? He has one good line and it's overacted a bit? What? That was the only thing? Did the entire budget just go into hiring Hugh Jackman? Was that the issue? I don't know. I think it was, because the characters here are just so uninteresting, flat and one dimensional, and the story doesn't equate to Pan. I just don't see it. And there's stuff there from the original story. I'm pretty sure there's plenty there. There have been plenty of Pan and Peter Pan related movies that were fine. So, trying to get an origin out of Pan, it could have worked, but it just wasn't this movie. It wasn't even close. It was terrible. The effects were terrible. The characters were terrible. There was just one overacted scene. What? Did you want to get acknowledged for that? There you go, I guess. It's just a shame that Peter Pan has been reduced to this now. Good luck next time, because I'm pretty sure someone else is going to take on Peter Pan eventually. Somewhere down the line. Maybe? Maybe? I don't know. Anyways, this is just too bad, so I ended up on my number 4 spot. Number 4. Coming in at number 4, Paranormal Activity 6, The Ghost Dimension. Another horror movie, and another bland one at that, and another franchise, blah blah blah, money cash grab. Oh boy, and another terrible found footage film. As if there weren't enough of those going around. Now look, I have no problem personally with found footage film. I think Cloverfield was okay, and that's about it. I think that's one of the only few ones that I can name off the top of my head that are rememberable in any way. But here we have a franchise that has been doing the same gimmick over and over and over again, and it's just boring. We see everything coming because now we can literally see the ghost. And sometimes it's just standing there, sometimes it's swooping across the screen. It's just not working. This found footage stuff has got to stop if it's gonna keep ending up like this. I feel like found footage films are already dying out because of movies like this. It's just not interesting. The characters aren't very interesting. They feel like the same characters from the other movies that involve the families or whatever. It's just the same thing, repackaged, but you can see the ghost, which didn't help. It made the movie worse. Hell, if this movie had the if it had the wherewithal to call itself a comedy, maybe it would have been passable. As this movie is ridiculous. It is almost laugh out loud worthy, but it's more facepalm worthy more than anything else, which is why it ended up on my number 4 spot. Number 3. Number 3, The Ridiculous 6. Ridiculously bad. And another bad Adam Sandler movie. Way worse than Pixels. Just boring. Every character here is so one dimensional. The jokes are just. They don't even try. It's just low brown fart poop humor. The story just loses itself all over the place, where he's trying to find his father and then he ends up finding the other six, and then they end up playing baseball for some reason, trying to make baseball funny. I don't know why it doesn't connect to anything in the movie, except they try to make it fit into the movie and it doesn't make any sense. No performance excels here. Every performance is just one flat note character, and it's a shame because I think some of these actors have done good work in the past, so it is just a shame to see all these people come together to make this cluster mess of a movie. It's just sigh worthy, almost impassable to watch. It's just so boring. There's not a funny moment to be seen. It just is so lazy. It's almost borderline offensive, to be clear, yes. And it's just. I don't know. I don't know. Why did they make this movie? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't do Netflix any favors, I'm sure. I don't know. It's it is ridiculous. It's ridiculously bad. So it got my number 3 spot. Number 2. Number 2. Probably one of my biggest disappointments of the year. Another horror movie, The Gallows. Now, this movie could have worked, but no, they made another terrible found footage cliche film with terrible, forgettable characters. And if memory serves, I believe I actually got the characters mixed up in my review. And it's so easy to do because they're that forgettable. And the way they promoted this movie is just, it made me shake my head like, no, you are not going to do that. They said that they were going to make the next Freddy and Jason. No, you did not even come close to those guys. I am sorry. This movie, the jump scares, if you can even call them that, were so predictable. The story kind of falls apart. It just isn't very good at all. The characters are flat, one dimensional. You kind of just want them to die. You kind of want the horror villain to die. You want everyone in this movie to just die and for it to be over. But I don't know. Maybe they're gonna make a Gallows 2, but I highly doubt it. I mean, this movie didn't. I don't think this movie did anything good in the box office. I don't know. I didn't look it up, but Hopefully, this will be the end of the gallows right here. Hopefully, we won't have to see more of this stupidity on the screen. This movie is just so terrible. The acting is just so. Ugh. It's just a shame that so many horror movies, so many of them, did so terrible in 2015. And this is just another one of them. It ended up on my number two, and it could have been easily switched out to my number one and number three. I felt all three of these movies could have been interchangeable, really. I mean, all three of them are just the worst of 2015, in my opinion. So, here we go. We're gonna finish this list soon. And the number one movie is coming in at number one, The Visit. Now, I got tricked into seeing this movie. Thanks, Nostalgia Critic, for saying this movie was fine. I think that's the reason I went to go see it, quite frankly. Someone actually said it was decent. And to be fair, I think that the good reviews come from people having such low expectations from this movie, which is why it got such decent reviews, except for me and maybe a few others. But I saw through M. Night Shyamalan's bullcrap. From the boring, bland, and forgettable characters that are so confusing and just out of place, with the two kids being kids that don't even seem real. This is just another attempt at doing that again for M. Night Shyamalan. And I feel like this here, The Visit, is trying to kill two genres with one stone. Instead of trying to kill the sci-fi genre with After Earth, or trying to kill a movie series franchise, The Last Airbender, here we have The Visit trying to kill horror and comedy at the same time. So thanks for that, first and foremost. Secondly, thanks for trying to kill the found footage film. As if The Gallows didn't do that enough, now we have The Visit to do that too. Thanks. Thanks a lot. No, just stop. Just stop making bad found footage films. I think they're gonna die because of this. And the crazy thing is just because it looks good, that doesn't make it good. It makes it more puzzling for me as I ask myself, how did they afford that camera? And I'm thinking about all these things about like that, and I shouldn't be thinking about that, but I am. But this movie's biggest problem, and I mean biggest problem, is I actually almost fell asleep. And if a movie can do that, that is the worst thing you can do in a movie is make someone fall asleep. That means they are so bored, so uninterested that they don't even care whether or not they wasted their money or not, that they would rather sleep during your movie than rather watch it and be engaged. That tells me that you didn't do your job. You did not do your job. You did not do anything scary. You did not do anything funny. You failed at making a good movie. That's about it. That is really what it comes down to. And it just takes forever for this movie to end. I mean, they could have left that house several minutes in after finding out the reveal of the movie, because that's the big M. Night Shyamalan ways to make the big reveal, and it's just not interesting. It's not a surprise. It's not anything. It's just so boring. The characters are just so boring. The story, hell, the premise of this movie, I don't even know how they were gonna make this work. I mean, trying to make visiting your grandparents scary, I, I don't know how that was gonna work. And it clearly didn't work. I don't know how they were gonna make that funny, and they didn't make it funny. I don't know. I just don't know. Hopefully, found footage films will be better. Hopefully, horror movies will be better. Hopefully, maybe one day, maybe M. Night Shyamalan will finally see the light. But I don't think any of those things are happening anytime soon. This movie, this movie is just sleep worthy. You sleep through it and you wasted your money. You have wasted your money unless you have left the theater and asked for your money back. It's a shame. It's a shame that found footage films can't be good now. It's a shame that we have to assume that they're going to be bad because of things like this, because of the gallows, because of Paranormal Activity 6. That's three found footage films of the horror genre that came out within this year, and they were all terrible. Three found footage films. Three! How? How? Come on. Let's do better. Someone come out, make a found footage film, and make it good. I'm Thomas Asula Jr., aka Mustache Tom, and I hope that 2016 doesn't have to make me do a top 15 worst of 2016. Let's hope and pray that all the good movies come out this year. And I'll see you guys next time.